The floor is yours, Senator.
My senator again, yeah?
Yeah, sorry. I thought I was giving. Yeah, sorry, mate. Yeah, you crack on.
I had some. All right, okay, cool. I'm Scotty. That's Motty. That's Youngy. Only 3 amigos again this week, as Joe, I believe, is dwelling in a caravan park in Sunderland. Each their own. How they want to spend their get away from their pandemic and stuff. Wouldn't be my first choice of place. Sunderland might be nice in August.
I love the way you just made. Is it just Sunderland? Yeah, let's just pick a place.
He said
you've
Newcastle,
got history, haven't you, Dave?
Yeah, well, I went viral, didn't I, last year when I said where's the worst place in England, and then just answered their own question and said Sunderland, and then they went like people from Sunderland were either being really aggressive or offering me to come up and get a tour around the beautiful coastline that's up there apparently.
That sounds a bit dodgy, doesn't it? Come and get a tour. Yeah. Right. Yeah. After you just insulted us all. Yeah. Thanks. No chance.
We'll greet you from the train station with a fucking 3-legged, one-eyed Alsatian.
It does look. I mean, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but it does look grim from what I've seen on that Sunderland Till I Die. And most of the people that sort of talk about it seem to say how grim it is.
Yeah, I mean, some of the points that were put towards me goes, you shouldn't punch down at mining towns that were devastated by Thatcher and stuff like that. And I said I was going more off sort of away days when went to the Stadium of Light and all that, and it was fucking a grim experience. So, I wouldn't go back. So have a good holiday anyway, Joe. But we're back for another topical week of chatting shit. James, what's your topic today?
I've gone for the amazing virtual studios on the Olympics. It's just amazing. There was one that I was looking at that was on French TV, and sent it to you. And there's a guy, and he's in like this bubble thing, and it's like a green screen thing, but he's in it's actually in the middle of this river in Tokyo, and he's got like a bubble around him, and it's a green screen. And it looks incredible. And there was another one on Eurosport where they interviewed someone in Tokyo, and they managed to get them appear behind a green screen and actually came into the studio. It's themselves and were right next to the presenter asking them questions. It's mad.
It is impressive how they've taken it to the next level. Do you know what I mean? Because it was I remember when green screens would just look crap, didn't they? They just used to look like you could tell straight away it's a green screen. It just looked naff. And then when you sent us those videos, it was just that is different level. It was weird because was it I know obviously you talk about the Olympics, but was it the Euros, James, where they had him in? Was it the BBC using him for the Euros?
I think, yeah, well, they've been using them for a few years now.
Yeah,
They do it and Sky do it now because their studio's 3 times the size, and it's not because they've got a bigger studio. It's just because they've got a green screen on either side that makes it look bigger than it is.
Yeah, it's go on.
I'm not impressed.
You don't
how?
They're just lying, aren't they? Really, they're not really there. They are, aren't they? They're cheating. It's like when they got fucking Tupac up at Coachella. He wasn't really there. Do you know what I mean? Just a hologram. What's the point?
That I'm with you. I'm with you on. I don't like that. It's like when Jetburn was in the Galaxy adverts. I know it's different. It's not. I mean, we're going down a different topic here, but I don't like the fact of dead people being used for things that they've not agreed to do. That was my point on that one. Do you know what I mean? Tupac didn't agree to that. They just managed to make him anyway. Jetburn probably didn't agree to sell Galaxy chocolate, but they used her image to do it. Do you know what I mean? I just feel it's a bit distasteful because it's hang on a minute, that's not fair. But in terms of green screen stuff, I used to think green screens, to get my words out, was just a load of nonsense. You're better off in a real studio and all that stuff. But when you look at the way technology is now, it makes sense. It does, and it is good. The way it looks and everything, that's wow, what a great explanation. It is good, but it's realistic enough to not go, oh well, this is just a green screen, or this is just made. But do you know what I mean?
It's really
the BBC one looks realistic.
Yeah. It's insanely realistic, and it's only when I think it's Glenn Kitson who I follow on Instagram, and he's shown the before and after, when they're taking the green screen off and stuff. And I was I had no idea. I literally thought that they were on location, and I thought, you lying bastards. And that was my first thought. I thought you pulled the wool over my eyes.
But that's why you don't like it. You were lied to, hurt your feelings.
Exactly. What sort of sadist likes the feelings being hurt, James?
Did you see James's resting bitch face again, by the way, this weekend? Honestly, that lad, it's no coincidence that every single picture taken of you, randomly, you look ready to fucking kill someone. There's no way they just managed to catch you every time as a one-off. I was actually laughing for 89 minutes. You just called me the 1 minute. I was fuming. Every picture I've ever seen, any screenshot, any bit of footage. Like my missus during the Euros final goes, doesn't that lad come on your channel? I'm like, yep, that's Youngy. And you look like, admittedly, the Europa League final wasn't the greatest spectacle, but you were fuming. And then the one you sent me the other day was just hilarious because it was just like, James Young at his finest looking. What game was it? You're at?
It was Barry Town versus Yates Town in a pre-season friendly.
What was going on there in that pre-season friendly to make you so angry?
I don't know. It's my resting bitch face. It's my natural expression.
You look like you're watching like the World Cup final and you were 5-0 down.
No, my school photo is worse than that. My parents didn't get it because it's just like a really sort of sarcastic smile that's basically saying "fuck you" to the person that took it. It's terrible. Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot of photos like that are of me available on the web of me looking miserable. But I think it's a Mancunian thing in a way.
Sort of.
Because that's that sort of miserable nature as we are as people, because we're quite optimistic, but at the same time there is a sort of miserableness and acceptingness of our surroundings, if you get what I mean. Almost I
don't like the way you're stereotyping all Mancunians. We're both jovial. It's your generation, sunshine.
Me and Scotty walk around with a grin plastered to our face constantly, no matter what. Constantly smiling. And I kind of know what you mean in a way. Like there is that. I don't know if it's exclusive to Manchester. I know probably more Mancunians that do it that do have a proper fucking resting bitch face. And it's usually the funniest ones as well. The ones that have like the driest sense of humour are actually not miserable. They just have a habit of looking like they're ready to fucking murder someone for no reason whatsoever. But what I liked about that as well is, that's from a friendly. And I went to the United Brentford friendly the other night. Took me lad. And like, it's United, it's Brentford. It's a friendly. Who gives a shit? Do you know what I mean? Like, whatever. And there were lads sort of a few rows in front of us who was screaming at the ref when he got a decision wrong. They were fucking ranting at players who did a wayward pass or whatever. And I was just like, man, we've been deprived of going to football a bit too much here, haven't we?
all that pent-up anger. Can you imagine when they go 1-0 down against Leeds on the opening day? Fucking hell.
I think they might have just spontaneously convulsed. And they were like, proper, like just absolutely losing the plot. I was like, oh my God, give me a break. But yeah, going back to your original thing though, Scotty, Youngy, get it right. On the virtual studio thing, have you ever been in that scenario yourself? Have you ever used it?
No, my community radio station that I was at couldn't extend their budget to a virtual studio. So unfortunately, we had to make do with the YMCA hub in Barry, the little community centre that had gym facilities, a cafe, and a nice studio that had a really annoying glass window, which meant that everyone that was in the community centre could look through at what you were doing whilst you were presenting your show. So you'd have kids that would walk up to the window and knock on the glass, and would just in general be a massive pain.
Scotty, I take it from your reaction earlier, you've not experienced the virtual studio in your many media dealings.
No, I haven't, surprisingly. I've been in green rooms and stuff, but every time I spoke about doing something in the background, like either music videos. Actually, no, sorry, I did something on the video I did for Dickhead DNA that had quite a lot of graphics and stuff on the back of it, but it was just I wasn't sure what was going on. It just said like, just look angry and rap to the fucking camera, so I did, and that was it, you know. And we moved on. But it's impressive, isn't it? I mean, it's nice that you can get this sort of equipment, especially in home and stuff like that. You know, like a lot of people. Imagine I can get something going on here. Is this green enough?
Yeah, we could do that. We could have it like, you know, if we could all get a green screen and pretend we're all on a beach somewhere or something, or well, better than that. We did. It depends what you use it for, doesn't it? And you have to. A, the technology's got to be good, and B, there's got to be a fucking point to it that enhances. The viewing experience. Do you know what I mean?
When people first started going on Zoom during the beginning of the pandemic, and it's like, oh, we've only just discovered technology. And like, look at me, I've got Old Trafford in the background. Like, oh, you wacky bastard! You know.
You're describing my dad there for about three months, literally for 3 months. Like, I'm not Old Trafford. Yeah, I know you think I am, but I'm not. But we got. I shouldn't even say this, but fuck it, I will. We got an interview with Andy Cole on the channel. Obviously, one of my heroes. Great stuff. We've got an interview with Andy Cole. Howson did it, and it was one of those things. It was via Zoom. And it's always a bit like, I think it was like, I can't remember, he had something coming out, or so he was doing like several interviews, you know, on a spin. It wasn't like exclusive to us. So you're always a bit wary, aren't you? Because sometimes you might be the 5th interview in the last hour and they're just bored or whatever. So anyway, it's on Zoom and it comes on and he's got the space background, you know, like you're in space, and it just looks ridiculous. It doesn't look good. It's like, and like, first he's sideways on. So Steve's like, can you turn your thing? You know, one of them ones. And he's obviously got someone with him because Steve can hear another voice like telling him what to do. And then he's space. And Steve's like asking about his background. He just didn't seem to know what he was on about. And Steve just thought, do you know what? Fuck it. We'll just do the interview. But then what happened was when Andy Cole started leaning back, sometimes his head would disappear. So it'd just be like he'd have no head. It was just space. So, fucking hell. So Steve's asking him all these questions like transfers and all this shit. And then we said, like, get a bit about Fergie, you know, so we can do like a documentary on Fergie, or we can put something together. Every time we get someone who played under Fergie, ask him a bit about Fergie, and then we can do something, you know, like, you know, legends talk about their best Fergie moment, whatever. Just try to get something extra. So when he asked him about Fergie, he leant back and his head fucking disappeared. So you just got like this, he's like, and then it's come back again. So it's just completely useless because you can't have a documentary about Fergie with someone just talking like they've got no head. So it was just like, oh, for fuck's sake. So
did you not use the audio though and use like stock footage or like?
Well, I think we might have to, yeah. For the actual interview itself, it was a bit of a shame, but we can make it work. It's Andy Cole in it talking about Alex Ferguson, but yeah, it was a fucking nightmare, and it was like
just thinking. It just reminded me of talking about my resting bitch face. Do you remember that thing I did for BT on that fan wall, and everyone else was going mad, and I was the biggest tile, and I didn't do anything.
Mate, even like talking to my dad, even I went round my dad's and we went full out United fucking background and flags, and he lent me one of his old kits, so we were like proper getting out, and then the main picture, like everyone, they proper encouraging. You had all these people that were dead giddy and like proper encouraging, and you had Youngy sat there like just not having any of it. It was fucking hilarious because he was like the main one.
It was there because it was something that happened before that. I wasn't intended to be on that fan wall, but because someone else held up a sign that said Robbie Savage is a wanker, the situation changed. And I had a couple of phone calls beforehand saying, yeah, we can't do the live thing with Rio anymore because someone's held up a sign. And there was a long pause.
I remember that.
I had to sort of ask, okay, so what was the sign? And it was like, yeah, someone said that Robbie Savage was a wanker, so we're not doing any more live stuff. So we're going to have to change it, unfortunately.
That was shabby. You know what? That was bad because like that was the whole hook, wasn't it? Was you going to do something with Rio, which obviously is, you know, any United fan would be happy to do that. But yeah, that got ruined for you, and then to sort of, you know, just be on a fan wall, which is just
and also
shit, really, you know?
It like, was no, because most of the people that were on it, they weren't match goers. I don't want to bridge a thing between match goers and non match goers, but a lot of them were just they were just like weird attention seekers that were just like in full replica sort of kit, and like the people that do that sort of thing, they're not really your hardcore fans. Because also, if you want someone to generate an atmosphere, it's the most non sort of way of doing it. people don't just start when a producer says, right, we want you to make an atmosphere now, start singing. It's a lot more natural than that and nuanced instead of just, right, raise some flag and do something, you know. I'm not just going to wave a flag in the air for 10 seconds.
I'm gutted that Joe's not here tonight because, you know, like you were meant to do that thing with Rio and he didn't do it. He did a thing for Talk Sport the other day. I was with him in the studio and I can't remember who it was meant to be with Jack Wiltshire, that was it. And there was a load of him on it. And it was like he was watching Jack. He's going to be watching Jack Wiltshire. It was weird. It was like he was going to be on like a fan wall watching Jack Wiltshire. And he kept him waiting for ages. And it's like, he's not here yet. He's not here yet. Da, 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 da. And then he said, oh, it's not going to be with Jack Wiltshire. It's going to be with Chunks, is it? The guy called Chunks. Yeah. And then they kept him waiting for about an hour. And then they sent a message saying, oh, we've had to cancel it. Sorry for messing you about. He was just sat there in front of his laptop waiting for hours. I left by this time and he just messaged. He sent me a screenshot of the message and he's like, fucking nightmare. I was like, oh, bro, I feel for you. It's like, it's funny enough, like, fair enough if you're waiting to do Rio Ferdinand, but waiting to do something for Jack Wiltshire and then it's not even Jack Wiltshire, it's Chunks, and then it's not even happening anyway when you've been sat there for an hour. It's just a fucking
To be fair, the best thing about that thing for BT was, one, I didn't actually have BT Sport at the time, so I got to watch the match for free through someone's Skype. And also, they didn't, the feed that I had, I could still hear Jake Humphrey and Rio Ferdinand talk when the adverts were on.
Ah, that's good. So you got a little bit of a...
So I got a little bit of Jake Humphrey and Rio Ferdinand talking about Cat Dealey.
Right, say no more.
Yeah,
hey, I'm not looking to get anyone cancelled here. So, and I quite like Rio Ferdinand. I'm not got much time for Jake Humphrey, but maybe you can tell us later.
Yeah, and if you've got any idea what might have the conversation between Jake and Rio, please add it in the comments. How do you think that conversation went down?
I'm not even going to get... I guess it was proper respectful and not in any way dodgy. That's what I'm going to guess.
You don't see it anymore, do you, Cat Dealey? What is she up to nowadays?
I know. What is she doing? It's weird because she was ubiquitous, wasn't she, for a while?
She was like the good part of Ant and Dec.
Do you think? Remember? SMTV?
Yeah, I enjoyed SMTV.
Yeah, I thought... I always thought, like, she was all right. Like, do you know what I mean? I still thought they were the sort of ones that carried it. But she was all right. She was obviously good-looking and inoffensive. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. What's she doing nowadays, Younger?
I think she's in America.
Oh, of course. Conquering America happens to the best of them.
I think America's Next Top Model, one of those sort of programs. X Factor, actually, talking of talent competitions, that's gone, hasn't it?
Thank fuck for that.
I mean, does anyone watch X Factor anymore?
No, I don't think so. I was talking about this on my show. I was covering on BBC last week, and they give me a range of topics. One was the amount of bins that we're going to have to use. I was like, oh, this is exciting fucking conversation.
Does someone not like you then, or what? Yeah, Scotty, here's a list of, the amount of bins we're going to use. What's your favourite number?
No, I mean, the topic came from, like, I was literally, they said, what do you want to talk about tonight? And I'd scrolled through news articles and just sent a load of them, and not realising one was about the number of bins that we're going to have 7 bins next year or something. And we have to talk,
really?
I know, yeah, because of like to break down the sort of how much recycling we're doing and that. So that was it. To be honest, the conversation, like, people had opinions on it. But one of the other topics was the X Factor and the end of it. One girl was really upset, and then the other girl wasn't asked in the slightest and said, like, she's happy to see the back of it. I just thought the whole idea. I mean, I was never run for it anyway because I prefer, like, real musicians who can fucking play instruments and stuff. But the whole thing that sort of kicked off the whole, the sort of shaming industry where you were sort of watching X Factor more for the people who couldn't get on the show. It became more interesting for the auditions, and then people wanting to, that seemed to be very much the beginning of people wanting to go viral or become famous. And then it seemed very sort of, it was set up towards it, because the contest after it got to, like, I don't know, semi-finals and knockouts, nobody really cared as much as they did in the early rounds. And Simon Cowell's a horrible cunt.
You know what? It's weird you say that, Scotty, because you're right about the whole X Factor thing. I used to cover the X Factor for Key. From the initial auditions, I know, oh mate, it was horrible. It was like, it wasn't even for, it was because, you know what? It was when I first worked at Key, my first shift was the weekend shift. So the auditions, like the initial auditions, were there used to be at Old Trafford football ground. And then then they moved to the cricket ground, funnily enough. But they were always on a weekend, so I'd have to cover him. And it'd just be shit. And you go down there and you'd interview a few people. And it was, and I choose my words carefully here, but it was a bit of a freak show. It was a bit like, do you know what I mean? Just people who were just dressed up and fucking about and obviously knew they weren't going to get through. But you would have some people that were decent or whatever. And like Dermot O'Leary was there, but none of the, you'd interview him, but none of the presenters were there. But I used to have a similar opinion on Simon Cowell, but then I interviewed him on the last time I did it. He was there. There was him. Is it Sharon Osbourne and Louis Walsh? And Nicole Scherzinger, but she turned up like an hour late and then didn't do any interviews. But he was actually all right, to be fair. So I mean, I'm not fucking, great insight to him. But when I met him, what I remember is I think the Grenfell single had just come out, so I asked him about that. It was a bit more like substance than, oh, do you think anyone from Manchester's going to win or any of that shit? Yeah. So I was asking him a little bit about that, and then his people tried to get him to, like, right, come on, Simon, we've got to go. And he said no. He told me fuck off, basically. Instead, carried on chatting to me. And then I don't even know, is it Katie Fitzpatrick from the MEN? She was with me, and she was like trying to get a word with him. So I just sort of fucking moved out of the way and got her to ask a few questions because I had what I wanted. And he was just from that interaction with him, he was pretty sound. I don't mean like to sort of character bash him when I'm calling him that name. It was more because I just found the whole show was about, and when it wasn't about the sort of freak show as you referred to it as, it's more like it became more about the judges, and it was there, and it was solely for their platform and the amount of money that they were making off the back of these people who did have sort of a vested interest in becoming singers and popular and stuff like that. And how many really went on and made it? But they milked that every year on, year out, and it just seems like they were just trampling on people's dreams while making a shitload of money out of it. And the
contracts were a joke as well. I mean, some of the people that even did when it didn't go on, I mean, they'd sign a deal with Psycho and they'd basically be tied in the sense that they'd take over almost every part of their lives. They couldn't run their own Twitter account. The effort to basically control all of their lives pretty much in terms of what they put out, in terms of what they did, was incredible, really.
Yeah, I think you're right. Was it like there was a couple of is it Joe McKelvey or someone, or Matt Cardle? He was another one who, it seemed like it wasn't so much the winner as the ones that they felt were the more marketable. So, for example, One Direction didn't win, but they were obviously potentially the big maker. Yeah, JLS didn't win. So they had a lot of money and effort and time put behind him, whereas someone like, a Matt Cardle or whoever felt like, well, this guy's not really going anywhere anyway. Like, we're just ticking a box. He's done his bit. His bit was being like winning the show. Now we don't really give a fuck about him. So yeah, and I'm with you, Scotty, on the whole, when you say about the presenters and that sort of thing, there's just a nastiness to it sometimes as well. Like that whole Nasty Nick. It was Nigel Lithgow, wasn't it, at first? When it was pop stars, that whole nastiness and laying into people.
It didn't need it.
Yeah, it's a bit. You think, you didn't need it, and like sometimes, like you're basically just bullying children. Do you know what I mean? These are like kids who've obviously got this dream, and if the shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, and then when you bring an audience into it as well, which
and trying to embarrass them in front of like the whole nation. I just find it disgusting. But the problem with that I always find is that it isn't just down to the likes of Simon Cowell or Piers Morgan, or whoever else was being nasty to these people. It became a culture where society seemed to like to watch people getting bullied. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, it's like fucking stoning back in the old days, where we like to watch these poor innocent people who have nothing but a fucking a voice and a dream to become singers and stuff. And then we're sort of egging them on. That became the thing. Oh, did you hear Simon's put down? Then the spin-off for that, we had like the likes of Gordon Ramsay, and then you had fucking, what's that fat lad from Top Gear who didn't get his steak quick enough, fucking Jeremy Clark. And we seem to, especially during the noughties, it seems to be this culture that we sort of got behind the bullies. Do you know what I mean? It's just a very strange culture.
Like, did you see that Black Mirror episode about the person that went on that reality TV show that was like X Factor, and they got the knife out?
Yeah. This smashed glass, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's the guy out of Get Out. I forget his name.
I think Connie Huck, who presented the Extra Factor, actually co-wrote that episode. married to Charlie Brooker.
She's married. Yeah, she's married to Charlie Brooker, isn't she?
Oh yeah, yeah. Because sorry, it's really gonna fucking bug me. I can't remember. Is it Daniel Kaluuya? Is that him? That's who I was trying to think of. Yeah, he was the main guy in it, wasn't he? In that episode. But yeah, it did almost become like that. Like, who can bully him the funniest and you know, just give him the most grief. And it just became a bit distasteful, and especially when you have these people, and sometimes, and it's like they know this as well, because obviously this is a scripted and produced show in the sense of the way it's structured. You'd have this backstory. So you'd have I remember, you know, there's one guy who came on once and he spoke about his wife dying. And he's, you know, this is this fucking terrible story. His wife, I think she died during childbirth or not long after they had the son. And it's really horrible, like, story. Do you know what I mean? It's all sad music, and he comes out, you know, after this story, and he sings, and then they just laid into him, calling him like karaoke and cabaret and all this. And you think, why have all that backstory if you know that this is going to be the guy's going to get fucking bastard? You know what I mean? Just don't play that, like, edit the backstory out. Just don't use it, and just have him come out, or just don't use him. Just, do you know what I mean? Why have that? It's just really distasteful, and just like, you think that became a sort of, like you said, the norm, and then trying to push the envelope with it. These like scripted put downs, and like, you know, how can you be the most sort of cutting and the most horrible almost, and really, you know, try and break someone, and then you have like these contestants like who just
and the sub stories on top of that.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Yeah,
like, my dad's just died of cancer. Oh well, you're not going through. Sorry, you crap. Bye. Yeah,
that's it. And it's like, fucking what is the need in that? That's like horrible. Yeah, it was. I think it's done its death on it. I mean, it almost became as well for me, X Factor, just irrelevant, just completely. There was a time when even I think the people that didn't watch it admitted that would acknowledge that it was important, and important in the sense that loads of people watched it. The song always got to number one. You know, the acts from it, whether it's the winner or someone else, had a big impact. So, you know, whether that was JLS or Leona Lewis or, you know, Gareth Gates or whoever, do you know what I mean? These people would become famous. Whereas now, Steve, he's blocked me on Twitter and he's horrible.
His Wikipedia section, I think, it's got the most for any X Factor in terms of the controversy section. It's just never ending.
Yeah, he blocked me because he said on Twitter once that depression didn't exist. It was just lazy sadness, and that basically people who had depression needed to get a grip. And all I did in response to that was sort of just send. I don't even think I wrote anything. I just sent him a picture of him in Costa Coffee performing in front of 3 people, and he blocked me. So, you know, fair enough.
Well, speaking about X Factor people blocking, I got blocked by Piers Morgan at the weekend as well for a very similar sort of incident where he was doing his usual sort of snowflake. He put a quote out by Dostoevsky, which I really doubt that he's read any fucking Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment or The Idiot or whatever. But I replied saying it was something like he was trying to put himself in a higher level of intelligence to the people that oppose his views. So I basically just said the arrogance to think that people who basically go against your opinion are unintelligent. And then he just blocked me off the back of that, and I was like, you fucking sad bastard. You can't even open a debate about it. And I just find his whole rhetoric about this sort of punching down regarding mental health, and also we've seen the stuff at the Olympics where he's been saying that people who have bronze medals are failures and stuff, and you shouldn't celebrate winning a bronze medal, or the people that have pulled out due to having mental health issues. And you put a great thing out when Adriano the other day put a tweet out, didn't he, about like how people with mental health, he's aware of what the sort of difficulties that can happen to sports people. And obviously the Adriano story is terrible when he lost his dad at a young age, and it really messed with his head. I just find these people aren't sports people, I haven't got any experience in it. You shouldn't really be commentating on it. And even still, like mental health, I don't understand why he's trying to fight on this hill. It's like he's just because he disagrees with it, he's trying to hold back like the future. And the next tweet I had lined up to him before he blocked me was the what's his name out of the wire. You want the world to go one way while it's going another way. What's his name? Do you know what I mean? And that's what Piers Morgan's doing. He just seems to be pushing against the way the general world wants to go, to be more sort of sympathetic or empathetic to other people's needs, because everyone has mental health issues up and down. And it's the fact that he can be so blasé about putting people down with it. And I struggle badly with fucking mental health. And I find it really offensive. And, you know, what benefit does he get from it at all?
I mean, you're right to sort of call him out. And I've, in the past, ignored him and blocked him and then just fucking ended up biting at times when I've seen some nonsense. He does this thing of, you know, being very judgmental and also very contradictory and hypocritical. I saw him the other day. He was having a go about, was it Adam Peaty or whoever had talked about being under pressure as a sports person. And he you know, he'd said, he'd come out with some nonsense about this isn't real pressures, you know, flying a plane or being a brain surgeon or whatever, or being a doctor. And then, you know, in earlier tweets, he tweeted about when Alexis Sanchez scored a penalty against Burnley, how he was amazing to live up to that pressure. So it's just contradictory. Do you know what I mean? It's
like a great quote tweet to that said something along the lines, how can you talk about pressure when you lost to the weatherman?
Yeah, he did. He did, didn't he? He stormed off when Alex Beresford, I think it is, called him out on his treatment of Meghan Markle. And he's just, you know, he is a very sort of just a sad little obsessive man, isn't he? And I saw him tweeting nonsense about Fergie and saying Fergie would have got cancelled or whatever. And, you know, someone pointed out that Fergie was very good at handling players who were going through times like when Ronaldo's dad wasn't well and he told him to go and take some time off and stuff like that. Like, he's just, I think he'll say whatever just to get some attention, and it contradicts himself. And the thing as well that sort of annoys me a little bit sometimes is he has this sort of circle of people in celebrities and stuff who I think do know better and encourage it a little bit and engage with him all the time. Do you know what I mean? Like, and he goes back and forth with them, and I just think, you know what he's doing, and he's better. You're better off just fucking either properly calling him out on it or just ignoring him. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You'll see him and Gary Lineker going back and forth.
I'm going to say Gary Lineker's the worst for it. Yeah, or just starve him of oxygen, you know.
Yeah, or him and Dan Walker. And I respect Dan Walker and I respect Gary Lineker, and I just think, just fucking ignore him. Like, rather than this sort of, because it does feel a little bit false as well, this back and forth that they do with each other when you know they're all friends. And I just think, like, you could quite easily just not fucking engage with him, not do the whole back and forth stuff. Because it's just it's really grim, and it annoyed me a little bit during like lockdown when people were like, "Oh, do you know what? Piers Morgan, he's all right," and he's you know, because he was so sort of not pro COVID, but pro taking action against COVID. He was anti-government, wasn't he? He was holding the government to account in certain interviews, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, he's a great guy." And I was thinking, he's doing all that though, and yet he'll still write 1,000 words on why Meghan Markle needs to be stripped of her royal titles when you've got Prince Andrew who's like blatantly, you know, wanted for questioning around his ties for a paedophile, and you don't mention anything about that, and just that sort of thing. And I thought, you can't just say, oh well, he's all right for this and ignore the other stuff, because he's always got that bit to him, and he does seem to have an issue with women of colour. He does, like, you know, if you look at it, he's just got constant form for it, and he's like, he'll always say, oh yeah, it's because I'm racist. Well, I've called out was it Djokovic or whatever, but he does seem to target these women. You know, I remember after the arena attack, I know she's not a person of colour, but he targeted Ariana Grande. Do you know what I mean? Like, had a go at her, and then he had to backtrack on that because it was like, hang on a minute, you know, she was literally flown away and then came back as soon as she could. That was like what she had to do security wise. That was what she was told to do. And he's always got like the sort of the nastiest.
No, he's not got a great track record, has he? It's the same with was it Raducanu after Wimbledon? He called her out for basically just, I think she had mental health problems, had to withdraw from the tournament, and he was saying that that's like not good enough. She should have like pushed through it. She's just bollocks.
And like, you know, you say that on one time, and I've heard him say this about mental toughness and mental toughness. Well, part of mental toughness is admitting you've got a problem. Yeah. That's the first thing you have to do. You know, just mental toughness, like, you can't think your way out of a problem when it's your thinking that got you into that problem. Yeah, you just can't do it. Tried it, it's like addiction. It's what they say, you know, thinking about it isn't going to get you out of addiction when that's what got you into it. In terms of using, I should say, not in terms of being an addict. And you have to admit it, and you have to ask for help and admit that you need help.
Isn't that like the first step of gamblers and alcoholic? I think is admitting that you're an addict.
Yeah, that's like step one. And I think that anyone that holds their hands up and goes, you know what, I've got a problem, I'm struggling, deserves credit. And to have this fucking idiot just hammering him and going, oh, you know, you need to be tougher or you need to stiff up a lip, it's just nonsensical. It really is. It doesn't make any sense at all. And I just thank God he's sort of only platform at the minute is Twitter or whatever, because you can only imagine, you know, it turning on the telly or whatever, or if you did ever watch GMTV, not that I did, but or Good Morning Britain, sorry, and seeing that sort of drivel on your breakfast telly with him, you know, like he used to, just shouting at someone and telling them why he's right and they're wrong. And it's just...
And Tommy Robinson as well. You know, everyone's favourite thing to wake up to in the morning with their cool.
Do you know what? That really pushed me over. I was literally, and I'm not a big GMB fan, I wasn't, now and again I'd watch it, but I remember getting my lad ready for school and literally just flicking through, and I saw this fucking idiot waving a Quran around, calling it a doctrine of evil at like 8:10 in the morning on ITV. And I'm like, what is that? Why is that on there? Do you know what I mean? Like, how's that been allowed to happen? And I just think that's just not good enough. So yeah, I just think fucking the sooner he just disappears up his own ass, the better. Yeah,
he's a contrarian for the sake of it, isn't he? That's all it is. I don't think he believes half the bullshit he says, to be honest. He's just like a big lonely bear in a cave and just there with Twitter, just fucking poking the stick at whatever he can to sort of get likes and retweets, and it's just wholly embarrassing for the old man.
It is, yes, nicely done.
Yeah. Olympics. Anyway, you want to talk about the shared gold? Another thing that you had a bit of a beef with.
Right, this is a real weird one for me, this, because I've seen like a lot of praise for this, a lot of sort of, you know, people hailing it as a great example of sportsmanship. So if anyone doesn't know, it's, and forgive me, my pronunciation is terrible, but it's Mutaz Barshim, I think, and from Qatar, and Gianmarco Tamberi from Italy. They both jumped the same height in the high jump. They had the opportunity to go into a jump off to see who'd get the gold, but they asked, and I think they were given the chance to share the gold instead. So they shared it, and everyone's saying this is, you know, a fantastic example of sportsmanship and of the sort of the Olympic spirit and all that sort of stuff. And I get it, and I think it is nice, like to see, you know, two athletes who were meant to be competitive sort of coming together. But there is a little bit of me, I'm not going to lie, that was like a bit like, is that really sportsmanship? Is that really like, because for me, sportsmanship for me is a little bit of, maybe a little bit of sacrifice in there. Like, you know, when you see like Di Canio catching the ball when he can score because Stuart Pearce has broken his leg or whatever, you know, your sportsmanship there is you sacrificing scoring a goal to help you because your opponent needs help. Or there was the one where the guy thought he finished the race and was celebrating, and the guy behind him said, you've not actually finished, there's another 10 metres, and let him finish rather than running past him. You know, that sort of thing where it's like in the, you know, that spirit of
fair play.
Fair play and
clap hands emoji.
Yeah.
Respect from an Aston Villa fan.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. And I don't know, I just felt like there was two things that stick in my mind with it. And I don't want to be overcritical because, you know, it is a nice thing they've done and everyone's talking about it. We're talking about it now. Would we be talking about it if it was just went the normal way that a high jump competition would go? Would we fuck? We wouldn't be sat here going, oh, let's discuss Tamberi or, you know, the other lad's gold medal in the high jump. We wouldn't even be interested in it. Let's not kid ourselves. So we are talking about it. But I always think like with the Olympic gold, especially, that's like the pinnacle. You're the top person in that field, and also for it to be lauded as this sportsmanship type thing, I think whilst it's nice and it's good to share and stuff, I don't feel it is that sportsmanlike to say.
Would you have shared the league with City if it was level on goal difference in 2012?
Probably not.
No.
Like if I was given the choice of going into a final game against them or sharing it, and also, you know, that's different because that's a team, that's a fucking a club, that's not my.
Well, the Charity Shield used to do that, didn't they?
Yeah, the first Charity Shield I went to in 90. Oh no, the first one I went to in 93 was the first one that wasn't shared. It went to penalties, and thankfully we won. Who gives a shit? To be honest with you, but I just don't know. I just felt like, are we over egging this a bit? That's my point. Sorry, that I'm sort of meandering towards. Is this really that big a deal in terms of a great example of sportsmanship, or am I just being a bit of a Piers Morgan?
I think that just due to the time of being a pandemic and thing, I think that's probably why it's been lauded a bit more, because the world needs to see that sort of unity. Okay. I think that's probably why it's been lauded. They both jumped. They both tried to jump higher, didn't they? Previously, so I think they both tried to. So they both jumped at the same level each time, and then when they both went higher, they couldn't do it. So I think that they did attempt to have one over on each other.
But they could have had another go and like gone to a jump off. That's how it's usually done.
Yeah,
it's been in that scenario. So it was like it wasn't like right, that's it now. There was like you can keep going until one of you wins, basically. And they said, well,
I know, I'd have loved it if like he turned around and said, "Should we share it?" It was like, "No, mate, get on that fucking track." I'd have loved to have seen that. No, you're jumping.
That takes a bit of balls, doesn't it, to be the first one to go? Shall we? You know,
yeah, because it was the guy from Qatar who actually said it first. We can share it, can't we? I think he said it first. I'm not saying like they wouldn't have come the other way around, but the whole world's looking at the other guy there, and he's thinking, it's got a split-second decision to make. How much of a bastard am I going to look like if I don't take this sort of gesture?
Do you remember Golden Bulls with Jasper Carrot?
Yes. Oh, yeah. That woman.
Yeah.
That woman who still lives in infamy. She deserved an Academy Award. She was like Meryl.
We're going to split. We're going to share the money.
Split or steal. Yeah.
Yeah, and she had him over, and it was like she was so convincing as well. Like there was no. I remember thinking like, yeah, fucking hell. But yeah, this was the opposite of that, because I get what you mean, Scotty. Yeah, we are living in a crazy time. I mean, for fuck's sake, the 2020 Olympics are in 2021, so that says it all, doesn't it? So in terms of like a bit of context of the pandemic and everyone's been through it, and there's already, it's not quite a level playing field in the terms of the Olympics, because quite a few athletes have had to drop out and stuff. So people are already like, this is already a little bit. I'm not saying that's the case in the high jump, but in general.
Yeah,
it is a little bit skew in terms of, this isn't a normal games. But I don't know, I just felt like it was a bit like, are we sometimes looking for things that aren't quite as great as we make out? It's like, oh, you know what? This is it. This is a great example. And I was just seeing it blanket, and I was just like, I don't know, man. I just thought, yeah, it's nice and that, but I don't think it's
like
quite
those Twitter pages that share like cute content of cats that they've stolen from other people and have tried to basically commodify it to try and gain money from stealing people's cute videos and selling them on to people that sort of these big viral agencies.
Yeah, it's just like these two. I mean, to be fair, right? These two guys have absolutely smashed it with this idea, because they're far more famous now than they would have been, right? Both of them, because like whilst high jump is obviously a big achievement, this has gone sort of completely around the world in terms of news. Everyone's talking about it. Yeah, everyone's talking about them. I can only imagine the amount of endorsements they're going to get that they wouldn't have got had they just won a gold medal outright. So it's. I'm not saying that's why they did it, but it's a fucking good thing for them. And it'll be one of those moments where it is sort of spoken about. And sometimes, like in the Olympics, weird moments like this do become sort of the ones that everyone remembers. Like, you remember
that will be remember the Olympics in Tokyo. This will be the sort of defining. This will be the defining moment.
Do you know, like, was it Derek Redmond in Barcelona in the fucking semis where his Achilles snaps?
Is that the one with his dad?
Yeah, and his dad climbs on the track and helps him over the line. Now, do you know what? I need to find this because, funnily enough, you always talk about that and you think like that is like it's been. I think it was voted like number 2 or number 3 in like the greatest Olympic moments of all time, and you think it sort of encapsulates the human spirit and. What the Olympics is all about, and everyone looks back at it and goes, it was fantastic. But the Guardian did their 50 greatest Olympic moments, and that came, I think, number 3. And they had on the Guardian website, they had the write up from that event at the time from the Guardian writer, and he described that moment as, this is how he described it: a display of histrionics which the crowd saw as courage, but must have bewildered many. So he just saw it as like, what the fuck is all that about, basically? You know, when Derek Redmond was getting carried across, he didn't think it was a momentous occasion. He just thought it was a display of histrionics, where actually that's the moment probably from the 1992 Olympics that most people think about. So sometimes it's like how you remember it looking forward, isn't it? Or sorry, going
you
forward.
used to have that as your Twitter bio.
I love it. It's my favorite quote ever.
Yeah.
And the reason I had it as my Twitter bio is because of that. It's because of that sort of reminder that sometimes you think like this is shit or this is the fucking most amazing thing, and actually, you know, years from now, people look back and go, "That was mint," or "That was fucking special."
I've noticed you've changed your Twitter account to be more sort of professional recently, instead of having sort of random profile pictures from TV shows and your bio is quotes like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of like hatred towards fan channels and stuff. So I thought I was gonna do it with my chest out and just say, you know what, you know, this is me. This is what I do. If you don't like me, then fuck off. It's not an issue.
And you have to change your name as well from RFFH.
Yes, to J Motty, which was his own thing. That was about 2 years ago, I swear. But yeah, I just thought, you know what, like I do fucking fan channels.
So what's happened to the old J Motty account then?
That's because I've got that as like that's my old journalism account. That's called now J Motty. Just so if anyone goes on it, because I still get, because I started out as a journalist. Quite a few journalists follow me on that and not my new one. So now and again I'll get like tweets, people tweeting me at that one. I know it sounds ridiculous, like not very rarely, but sometimes, or an inbox or whatever from someone who doesn't use Twitter. So that's the only reason I've not completely shut it down. But to be honest with you, it's been that long now. It probably does need it. But yeah, I just thought I'd ask you guys on that, because it's not like I'm amazingly passionate about it one way or the other. I wasn't looking at it going, what the fuck is this? And I get it. I just thought, really, you know, when there was so many fucking posts about it and so much like admiration, I thought, is it quite the fucking noble act that it's been made out to be? Or is it just two guys who can go, you know what, we can both end up with a gold medal here. It's all right, isn't it? Yeah,
I mean, if it was me and I I didn't fancy my chances, I'd take the gold, wouldn't you? You know, yeah. And did this mean then that somebody else who wasn't going to get a bronze got a bronze?
There was no. I think, am I right in thinking there was no silver?
No. Well, there couldn't have been. If there's two gold medalists, then that guy got the second gold medal, would have got the silver. So
yeah. So
I think it's up to the people taking part in the sport, as far as I'm concerned, isn't it? I have no real vested interest in fucking in the high jump.
You seem a little bit like me in a way, Scott. It don't seem like you're that fussed either.
I don't really care for the Olympics, if I'm brutally
Do you know
honest
why? I'm curious about that. What makes you say that?
I prefer the Winter Olympics. I just always have. I prefer like the sort of sports in the Winter Olympics. This one's been a bit better because I didn't realise, like, I've enjoyed the BMXing and the 3-on-3 basketball's been pretty decent. But I've never really been big into sort of track and field sports. It's just never really sort of, they're just running, and I'm going to get pelters for this. But you know, and I know it's an incredibly hard sport to do and stuff, and I don't want to take anything away from it. It just doesn't engage me or excite me in the way that certain sports do.
Do you know what though, right? And this is probably a bit too deep for the remaining 5 minutes or whatever we've got left of this podcast. But the whole Olympic spirit idea is quite flawed in itself. When you look at some of the things that have gone on in the Olympics, there's been a lot of like anything from downright horrible stuff to just distasteful stuff that's gone on in the Olympics. So you've got like, obviously, the big one, without shadow of doubt, is 1972 Munich Olympics, which was just horrible when the Israeli sports team, well, a lot of them were killed. But then you look at what happened in the aftermath when I think it was the Olympic chairman gave a speech where he barely mentioned them. You know, it was the games will go on. There was obviously the 1936 Olympics, which was used as a showcase for Nazi Germany. You know, all that sort of stuff that went on there. And then there's other little things like the time I was watching, have you seen the fall, the Zola Budd Olympic in 1984?
Yeah.
And I was like, she was too scared to run the fastest to win a medal because the crowd were all booing her. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's all these little things like what have gone on the Olympics, and you think, you know, the 1988 Olympics where Ben Johnson absolutely ran, you know, broke the world record, wins a gold, and then 2 days later gets stripped of it. So there's always been this sort of
the fact that the Russian Olympic Federation is still allowed to compete in team sports, despite the fact that there's state-sponsored doping going on.
Yeah,
What?
Like that's insane. Like they are cheating. They don't give a fuck. They're going to cheat because their government just lets them, and yet they've still managed to find this loophole where they're competing, despite the fact everyone knows they're cheating. And it's like, how is that?
I quite like that. I quite like that though. That's an interesting story to me. That I've always liked the sort of the backstories and all that sort of that's quite interesting. But in terms of the actual events, there's nothing that's really sort of whet my appetite.
I will say that I don't want to use that my sort of mini rant about as a criticism of the athletes. You know, the athletes are obviously fucking
yeah, they're amazing,
you know,
amazing.
They're amazing, and I've got nothing but respect for them. But I just think this whole Olympic spirit ideal is a bit, you know, a bit misleading at times.
I always feel as well like the Olympics feel a little bit like forced fun. You know, like when you like, you know, you got to go to your worst do, and you got to have a good time here, and that's what the Olympics feels like. I don't give a shit for 4 years. How am I going to fucking care for 2 weeks over a summer? You know what I mean? Like that, I care about track and field. No, I don't give a shit. I've not heard about these people. Do you know what I mean?
It's like New Year's, isn't it? Forced fun. Yeah. No one enjoys New Year's Eve, do they?
No, it's terrible.
Oh, it's great.
I stay in now.
Next year. See you next year. It's the same joke I make at the same time every year. See you next year. Every time. So funny.
Oh. I mean, yeah, I sort of get what you mean, because I think in 2012 I got caught up in it a little bit, and also it sort of coincided as well with me reporting. So there was a little bit of like, I interviewed some of these athletes before and after the Olympics, and it was in London and in Britain, and you know, there was my job was interviewing anyone who had any association with any of these athletes. I remember, I think it was one of the gymnasts had trained in Southport once, and I had to go and interview the guy who coached at that Southport like gym, and he was literally like, was it Lewis Smith or someone like that? I think the gymnast was, and he was like, oh yeah, he was a great lad. You know, he came here that one time and he was great. And it was like, that's how we tied that into our news.
Yeah. Did you ever do any former PE teachers? That's the one.
It was like that, yeah. It was that kind of thing. Like some guy who, you know, met Beth Tweddle once or whatever, and let's interview him and tie it into, you know, a Lancashire coach has said, you know, because I was working as a Lancashire reporter. So I got caught up in it a little bit, and the whole Super Saturday and all that sort of stuff. And there was a few personalities I quite like. I love Jessica Ennis and Mo Farah and that. But then, you know, since then, I've not really had that interest. Laura Trott as well, and who's the Jason Kenny. So there was a lot of people that you could get behind, and you know.
Yeah, there were a lot. I think in many ways, though, the sort of athletes, I've only met a few, but they do seem a lot more likable characters than some of the sports stars that you see in the sports that we sort of follow, with football and stuff like that. One thing that really sort of rubbed me up on the wrong way regarding the 2012 was all this sort of plastic patriotism or nationalism or whatever you want to call it. This sort of celebrate how fucking great and united this country is. And I'm like, we're going through the middle of fucking austerity. Do you know what I mean? You're spending a shitload of money on fucking fireworks and the amount of money the Olympics is costing, and you've got food banks on the, you know, beginning to pop up all over the country. And I just thought, you know, what do you expect? I mean, that they're not gonna open up the Olympics and go, we're doing a bit of shit here, but you know, it's all going to be like
Danny Boyle, yeah, a massive fan of Danny Boyle. Sorry,
Dow, the chemical company, were one of the main sponsors of that Olympics, and there was big protests because there was a gas leak in India that killed quite a few people before. And there was a big protest beforehand because they would say, how can you say all this stuff about the Olympic spirit when like one of your main sponsors is partly responsible for the death of loads of people in India?
This is what I mean about the Olympic spirit.
And the fact that they sold the rights to Eurosport, which means that you can only watch two things at a time now on the BBC.
Yeah, it's not the romantic idea I thought it was once. You know, I always thought the Olympics was great, and then, you know, you sort of look at it, scratch beneath the surface, and you think, actually, there's some shady shit that goes on in there. And like you say, even the 2012 one, which up until recently, I think, James, you mentioned it on the other podcast, and you've obviously mentioned it again today, Scotty. I almost forgot about that with the 2012 one. You know, I almost forgot that, it was in fucking, like, just in the I suppose you could call it the peak 2 years into austerity, where we were fucking, pumping money into this spectacle to tell everyone how great Britain was. I sort of almost got caught up a little bit in the whole Danny Boyle and the opening ceremony and the medals.
Celebrating the NHS and all that.
NHS and Windrush and all that.
Yeah.
We did the bit of Windrush, didn't he? And he did the bit about the
NHS.
NHS.
The irony is the fucking government that were doing that we're in the middle of fucking deporting people that came over from the fucking Windrush. It's just, and that's the thing is that when you do scratch beneath the surface, it's a lot of murky, inky shit going on.
Murky, inky shit. Just slightly off topic a little bit, but have you seen that Uprising about?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
I watched it today, funnily enough. It's fucking brilliant, isn't it? It's screaming at me telly, getting really angry stuff, but it's fucking brilliant, really good.
So it's one of those things that you watch all in one go. It's 3 episodes.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I was up till 4 a.m. watching it because I was like, "Wow, this is." Steve McQueen's a fucking national treasure. He's absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely nailed it. He is, mate. Yeah, I watched it today, and I did that exactly what you guys have said. I fucking watched it back to back, where I was meant to be working from home. That's the only reason I didn't tweet about it. And it was like I couldn't stop. Once I watched one, that was it. I was well into it.
The thing that I loved about that, and obviously you can concentrate on the sort of the tragic side of it, but it's also the sort of fact that they banded together to overcome. Do you know what I mean? And that sort of shows that sort of sense of community about coming together and stuff. Because if they didn't, do you know what I mean? If then people don't fight against it, then it just carries on, and they presume it was like a fire that was set within in the house by 2 people fighting, and it's amazing. It just sort of shows that sort of power, and I think we've seen it over the last 12 to 18 months regarding sort of the Black Lives Matter movement kicking off and stuff, and it does show when there's a cause for people to get behind.
But that's when the BBC is really good, because that's public service broadcasting right there. That's educating people about the past and racial issues and informing them, and that's what I think it should do more of as a body. And I think it's really important when stuff like that is free for people to watch, because it's so important and it should be preserved.
Yeah, and it should be taught in schools. Do you know what I mean? Like I was in high school mid-90s. I didn't hear about that until I went to university, 2007, and it's only when you start digging back and reading back on history but that stuff's more relevant than fucking medieval times and who King Henry was fucking chopping the head off. How is that? But it's not, is it really? This is what we should be. Like Stephen Lawrence is another case. This is sort of really important modern history that we should be taught about. Our teaching our kids day in, day out.
It's almost as if it's hidden. I mean, I did A-level history, sociology, and politics, and only then did I do a whole spec on civil rights in America. Sociology did a lot on Stephen Lawrence and Marxism and that sort of area of it. But it's almost as if a lot of those people that get to that position tend to have certain qualifications, which means that those that are working class are less likely to get the grades to go on to study A-levels in the first place. And those sort of qualifications and those things to study are almost like a glass ceiling available, because politics especially and journalism as well, it's almost if they only want a certain type of person to go into it and look at it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And given the sort of the climate we've got now regarding racism rearing its head again, it's more important than ever that these sort of things are taught in our schools, and that, because that's the only way you get rid of it, by educating from an early age. I've been researching like early 90s in Manchester and the sort of racial tensions that were going on there, and it was never taught about in schools, and yet it was prevalent, and it's like what we're doing to change it.
100%, mate. Yeah, you're completely right in everything you said there, and it's like, I'd almost forgotten about that. I'm embarrassed to say, until I watched it today, and I was like, "Fucking hell, I forgot." I forgot, and obviously I remember at the time. I mean that it happened. I'd forgotten that had happened, and I remember obviously growing up in Manchester, hearing about the Moss Side riots and stuff. I remember we had James Anderton, didn't we? Do you remember him? That fucking idiot as the chief constable.
Yeah,
he was proper right wing, a lay preacher and all that, and just hated gay people, hated black people, just horrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was dark times, man. And you think that's in my lifetime,
Yeah, I mean,
what it is. It's in my lifetime that was going down.
Yeah, there was a lad. So when I was leaving primary school, I was due to go to you had feeder schools. I was either going to Spurlier or Burnage, and 2 years before I was due to go to Burnage, a young lad, a Bangladeshi lad, 13 years old, was murdered in the playground, and the council tried to say that this isn't it wasn't a racial attack and stuff, and that the Asian kid was killed by a white lad because they were trying to protect other Asian lads that were getting bullied, and it only took like there was a independent investigation done. There's a great book on it called Murder in the Playground if you're interested, but it's just do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, unless you're challenged on these certain things, people will like where's the want?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? One thing I really found interesting in that uprising was that you don't usually get the police force coming forward to interview on their behaviour in the past and regretting it in the way that they did. You know what I mean? Because it was the guy that a lot, and I thought that was quite a unique take, because you don't really get them sort of holding the hands up and saying, "No, we were in the wrong there." There's the guy, one of the coppers was saying about how he was running round and sort of hitting people on the head with a truncheon, and but he admittedly regretted it as he should. But you never really sort of get that sort of level of guilt, of admission, I presume. But,
yeah, no, you're right. It was quite rare. And you know, even the like there was a woman cop once. She was like talking about how they tried to put it down to this fight that wasn't a fight, and it was bollocks basically. And then she was holding her hands up and saying, you know, we got that one completely wrong.
And the fact that they were children and they were taking them in for questioning and were basically lying to them at the same time.
Fucking hell, that must make 11-year-old girls getting tucked in for questioning. And you're thinking, oh my God, can you imagine if someone tried to take one of your kids in for questioning without you being there? Not a fucking chance. And yet, they just almost didn't have a leg to stand on, did they? These people legally, in terms of the protection and the help they were getting during the police questioning and stuff. It was just fucking horrible. It's not like you were saying earlier. It's not some faraway magical time when we were all fucking. Under Viking rule. This is the 80s, man. This was happening. It's like, it's modern Britain that this took place under. So it's really scary. But if anyone's watching and thinking, what the fuck are we on about? It's Uprising, and it's about, it's the sort of, the main crux of it is about the fire in New Cross, the New Cross massacre, as it was called, where I think 13 kids died.
I think so.
And then there was another lad who killed himself, I think, not long after, who they attributed that to the fire as well. And it's on BBC on iPlayer. It's called Uprising. Steve McQueen and Scotty said.
They did Small Axe as well, which is great.
Yeah, I've not seen Small Axe yet. Do you know what?
Oh, that's a fantastic series.
I will watch it, and I will, but I think I have to fucking have a break after that, because it just gets me fucking so angry.
Yeah.
I'll probably watch it next week or something. If I think if I watched it tomorrow or whatever, I'll just be fucking ready to go and, I don't know, march on Parliament. But
as we talk about civil rights, I've not got my t-shirt. I wasn't going to wear it. It's James Baldwin's birthday today, and you talk about civil rights. There's a great film. I don't want to say the word, but it's I Am Not Your N-Word.
Yes.
But that's a fantastic film on his life, and he was befriended with Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and stuff. That's such a fantastic bloke, activist and stuff. So make sure you're checking that out. I've been Scotty. That's been Motty. That's been Rest in Bitch Face Youngy. We shall see you next week. Comment, subscribe, and hopefully Joe is back from Sunderland to fill us in and what the highlights of the North East was like for him.